Check 1, 2, 3. I think we are live, and hello and welcome to all our viewers once again for Players Lounge on this special Sunday with three special guests. Of course, let me introduce them. First up is Jessica Ho from Hong Kong Women's Rugby. She's playing in the sevens team as a professional athlete for Hong Kong team, who will has that ability or the chance to compete in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, which is postponed to next year throughout the repechage system. And the other guest for today, another special person, Norfarahana Aziz, known as Anna, all the way from Malaysia. Anna, good to have you on the show as well. Such an inspirational athlete. She has been representing Malaysia and accepting our very short invitation. Someone who don't need much introduction for the Northern Hemisphere, but it's my pleasure and honor to introduce to Asia Rugby Fraternity, Rachael Burford. Thank you very much for accepting our late invitation. Rachael, of course, won the World Cup, Women's Rugby World Cup in 2014 with England. And not only that, she has been played 4 Rugby World Cups, if I'm not mistaken, and 2 Sevens Rugby World Cup. Tons of experience, and also Harlequins legend. I may call her Queen of Harlequins. I'm not sure. Let me find out from her. Anyway, let me put the first question to Jessica Ho. Jessica, thank you very much once again. Hong Kong Rugby doing really well. Tell us, just brief us on the current situation and how whether rugby is happening in Hong Kong.
Thanks for having me. So rugby is happening now. We've never had a lockdown. We've had lots of different restrictions. But as of now, actually as of yesterday, all clubs played their first friendly matches and the league starts again next week. So it's really, really exciting. And I think people are just itching to play again, really.
That's some wonderful news. How about the situation in Malaysia, Anna?
So now there is no rugby tournament currently because the cases is rising up. Yeah, hopefully the numbers will go down, so we will have the tournament. Yeah.
Yes, indeed, the COVID cases are increasing, and we are also in a lockdown here in Colombo. And Rachael, of course, the British Prime Minister is saying UK is going for 4 weeks lockdown. How is rugby going to happen?
Yeah, so yesterday we had the announcement that we're going to be back in lockdown for 4 weeks. We're still trying to find out as much detail as we can regarding sport, but as far as we're aware, that grassroots sport won't continue, so that would include rugby for the next 4 weeks. And we also had a bit of a disappointing announcement that there will be no competitive league this season, as the RFU announced a couple of days ago that any league other than elite and championship for the men will not be played until next season. So it's a bit of a difficult time for a lot of our clubs at the moment. A lot of players have been playing a lot of touch games, and they're just, as Jessica just said there, everybody's itching to get back and play full competitive rugby. But, it's a difficult time for everybody with the pandemic.
Absolutely, fingers crossed. Hope things will come better, at least in 2021, to say so. Let's talk about the inspiration. You guys are real superstars playing this brilliant sport. If I ask first with Farhana, being a Muslim, playing for Muslim nation, wearing the hijab, you are the first player to play that. I'm sure there's so many cultural barriers and differences that is tough to take from perhaps from your family background. How did you overcome all through this?
At first, I was the only one who's wearing hijab in the team. And there is so many different because I met new friends in the team which is come from various races and religion, but I didn't take that as a burden and I think that is my specialty and something that I can keep as my identity. So even I'm wearing hijab, I want to prove to people that women, especially the ones who's wearing hijab, also can play rugby, and nothing can stop us. And grateful that my family, my coaches, and my teammates are supporting me, encouraging me, even I'm wearing hijab. Yeah.
That is absolutely some wonderful news. Perhaps Rachel and Jess, this might be the first time that you are hearing a story like this. I mean, uh, rugby is for everyone, isn't it, Rachel?
Yeah, it is absolutely. I've been lucky enough to hear Anna's story before on the Women's Rugby Pod, but I think it's so important that we try and break down all these barriers. And you know, we have Muslim women wearing hijabs in England, but do they know that Anna exists? Do they know that it's possible for them? And I would have to say I don't think so. So we've still got so much more to do in terms of opening. We always say our game is for everybody, and it is. But it's making sure that we're opening those doors to show people that, you know, no matter what walk of life you come from, whatever race or religion you are, you're more than welcome to come along as you are, and as however you want to come along as well, just as Anna was saying there.
Absolutely, indeed. Jessica, I mean, it's also maybe a bit newer for Hong Kong in terms of that. But let's talk about the women's participation and growth. You started from some other sports like football and ice hockey, playing that roller hockey, in fact, and also in the track and field. How do you feel that coming into rugby at the age of 16? And also your incident, just talk through your incident to which happened in Colombia. You are very lucky to be alive, you said.
Yeah, you've definitely done your research. So I'll start with the sport bit first. But actually, it was quite easy, or it seemed quite easy for me to access rugby growing up. I had a lot of guy friends who were playing, and like me and my friends were all quite sporty. Like you said, I played a lot of different sports, and so we actually tried it for fun. Like me and a group of my girlfriends decided we'd try something different, go play rugby on a Sunday. It seemed really social. You know, the parents would all come down and watch and hang out as well. So I think it was quite nice for my mum and dad to like meet up with people and new friends and things. And then, yeah, I just fell in love with the sport and kind of never stopped. And as for the incident in Colombia, I had a bit of an accident. I had quite a big fall from a bridge right at the end of like a 4-month trip that I did there. And I was incredibly lucky. I don't actually remember any of it. I think trauma has that way of protecting yourself and protecting your brain from remembering things that will be too harsh for you to remember. But yeah, so I sustained a number of injuries and I was actually out of rugby for a year. But if anything, like it just made me fight so much harder to get back into it. And at that point, I hadn't played any international rugby. So the drive was to get better, play club rugby, and then try and get my spot on the national team.
Absolutely, some brilliant stories, a brilliant inspiration to come through that. You are out for 1 year and then here you are wearing Hong Kong shirt and representing your country, which is fantastic to hear. And it's absolutely an inspirational thing for entire Asia and even to the entire world. Probably Rachel can transform all this Anna's story and Jessica's story to Northern Hemisphere as well. Anna, before I move on to Rachel, I want to ask you, even you did some other sport and then I think you were doing martial arts if I'm not mistaken, and then you stopped that sport and it took only 2 months for you to get into rugby. How do you find that? What are the skills that you got from martial arts to rugby?
I think because martial art is also a physical game, so yeah, it's quite easy for me to tackle and to run because of it's a physical game. I just don't know the rules when I start playing the start playing rugby. But with the support from the coaches that trust me that I can play rugby, so I challenge myself to learn about rugby. Yeah.
And also, how was the support from your union, especially, and also your club, Cobra Venom?
My uni is supporting a lot because the lecturer understand me that I have to juggle time for study and for training. So they always give me cooperation when I go to them. And yeah, Cobra team, they've been supporting me by like if sorry
No problem. Take your time. Go ahead. You're doing well
Cobra,
now.
yeah. Sorry,
All right.
Cobra
Wonderful. That
is
was
supporting
a
me well from the start. Yeah.
great try. We just saw wearing the number 6 shirt and wearing the scrum cap and scoring that try. That was a great support work, and that's against Sri Lanka, unfortunately. But I'm sure you all lost that game. It's okay. Rachel, going through this, Rachel, I mean, you have enormous experience, like I mentioned, 4 World Cups, and you have been an immense ambassador for the game and a role model for this game. Where do you see first how Asia reacts? Especially, I'm asking this question after Japan hosting that Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, well, I think it has huge potential. I think, as everybody has already seen, I was lucky enough to be at the World Cup for a couple of the games, and I think what's so unique there, and I was lucky to be. Well, obviously, I live in England, so I was at that World Cup in 2015. But the difference of the fan engagement is just a different level. Walking around the stadium, how everybody's fully engrossed, fully supported behind whatever team. And that just kind of shows how much they love rugby. Obviously, they were massively supporting Japan, but at the same time, if another game was on, they were fully engrossed in it. They were engaged, they were supportive, they bought into it. And I think that's a really exciting prospect that you've got a nation, not just in Japan, but of all of Asia. It's a new market, it's a new opportunity to grow the sport, and there's the population there is quite exciting about how what new audiences we can introduce into the game and how many more young girls and boys we can get picking up a rugby ball and running around.
Absolutely, indeed. That's with your Harlequins colours winning the Premiership. I think that was a shield. And also, talk about the women's game. How massive is that? I mean, I'm sure that the women's game has been professionalized in the United Kingdom and in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, we've still got a long way to go, but we are in a really good position as a country. We've got full-time contracts for the 15s program. I'm not sure if you're aware, but due to COVID, our 7s program has now gone on pause, shall we say, and a lot of the 7s players are now back in playing 15s at club rugby. Our club rugby is very strong, so domestically we have 10 Premiership teams who are sponsored by Allianz, and they kind of have a semi-professional setup. So all the coaching staff, the off-pitch work, so the in the gym, the nutrition, those kind of things are there for players to take advantage of to then, perform better on the pitch. So our domestic game is really strong, which then feeds into the international game. So we are in a really good position and strong position. But we know we aren't satisfied. We know that there's plenty more that needs to be done. But we also need the world to also do more, because there's no point us having World Cups and competitions where it's only competitive with New Zealand, France, and England. We want to have more emerging nations. We want to see Asia thrive and have teams coming through. That then suddenly we get a bigger audience, and that attracts more sponsors, and then commercial opportunities, and then more money's in the game, etc. So we've all got a hell of a lot more to do, but the game is relatively in a good place.
I love the fact what you mentioned, Rachel, about Asia blooming out and there's more team to compete with the top tier nations. Most of the countries in Asia, as we know, in tier 2, tier 3 level in international stage. But I like to mention you that Kazakhstan and Hong Kong has the opportunity to take part in the next Women's Rugby World Cup in New Zealand, and also in the from the repechage tournament for the Tokyo Olympics sevens competition. I'm sure, Jessica, you would like to talk about this in terms of your preparation for those two games that I mentioned, especially Olympics.
Yeah, so we came second in the Olympic qualifiers for Asia, which gave us a place in the repechage along with Kazakhstan, who came third. And so we were obviously gearing up for the repechage, which I think was looking like it was going to be in France. Obviously, this pandemic happened and everything got pushed forward. So at the moment, we're training to be ready at any time, which just throws completely different challenges, and I guess also completely different opportunities. And we're, like I said, we're incredibly fortunate in Hong Kong that we are able to train, that we are able to start our league. So hopefully we're just using that time to get ourselves the best prepared for when they decide that repechage will be. And in terms of the 15s, which I'm also involved in, at least in the training squad at the moment, we're preparing for our ARC, which is the Asian competition. Top spot takes a place in the World Cup, which we were at last year, last World Cup in 2017 in Ireland, along with Japan. And this year, the top spot will take a place in the World Cup, and second place will go to a repechage, and it'll be the first ever women's 15s repechage. So that's also really exciting, and again, that just shows how the game's progressed and is hopefully following that same line that the men's does with the repechage.
Wonderful. When you joined to Hong Kong rugby setup, there were a few star players like Lindsay Watty, Natasha Thorne, and Namka Man, and they were your role models as well. Now, most of the senior players are leaving. How is the setup in terms of progression and in terms of talent identification coming into the Hong Kong rugby system?
Well, we're very lucky again that our union has really put a lot of focus on the national age grade programs. And that's really showing that it can really make a big difference. You know, we've had quite a few young players in the last few years can't step up in the 7s and the 15s programs. And it's a really good way for us to build a team. As you say, people have to retire. And it's really important that we have a feeder system. I think it works quite well in our clubs as well. A lot of our young players are coming up, playing senior level, getting a taste for senior rugby, which is very different, especially in terms of physicality, compared to the youth game. So I think it's a really big focus to get a really good, clear feeder system so that these girls and these talented players can come up and play seniors and, you know, take over our place and be much better than me as well.
That's good. More competition that you have. It's all about the improvement and the growth of rugby in any country. I also want to ask Anna about how well Malaysia rugby has systemized. I know that it's not that popular sport in Malaysia, but it's really growing fast in terms of rugby where it's concerned, especially after Japan's Rugby World Cup as well. Let's talk about the women's rugby and the growth. How do you see it from your eyes?
Okay, once when I start playing rugby, women's rugby is not, popular at all in Malaysia. Some people don't know there is women's rugby in Malaysia. But luckily, we have a manager that always try his best to communicate with Malaysia Rugby Union, with Malaysia National Council to get the help and support from them. So with the help and support from Malaysia Rugby Union and Malaysia National Council, we national rugby player, women national rugby player, were able to have a full-time training, get a proper allowance, get a better accommodation and training facility. And I think the support from them really helped the growth of women's rugby in Malaysia. Yeah. That's why I think the support is very important, and thanks to them and thanks to our manager and coaches too. Yeah.
Absolutely, indeed. Good to see support is coming, and also, like Rachel mentioned, good to see that Alliance sponsoring the women's competition. Most sponsors mean that is all about encouragement. Rachel, where do you see with your retirement after your industrial career? Where do you see this women's rugby? How can it grow in UK and over the world, in your point of view?
Well, I think what's exciting is that a lot of countries are in a good place, but there is still so much potential for growth. You know, we are the fastest growing team sport, and what we discovered is, you know, if women's rugby grows, so does boys rugby. You know, we know that most mums make decisions in the household, so if they're allowing their young girls to play, they're going to allow their young boys to play. So actually, we get twofold from growing the women's game. What I would like to see is, like I said there, about the World Cups being ultra competitive, and that, you know, you go to a World Cup, whereas you look at the Men's World Cup last year, you're looking at, you know, 8 or 9 teams that could all be in a final and could be in an opportunity to win it. Right now, we're not there with women's rugby. And for me, that starts in domestic rugby. So we need to have strong domestic competition in order to get that experience, to play those opportunities, to play in finals, or to play, you know, week in, week out competitive rugby, because then that will naturally go into the international game. Where at the moment, a lot of international teams don't have many fixtures, so they rely heavily as well on that domestic league. So if we can increase the sort of depth and the knowledge and the experience and, you know, the whole club experience, so that our international game can then benefit from that. Because then what that does is, if our international teams are going really strong, so Anna's talking there in Malaysia, not many people know about it. Well, we need people to know about it. So we need to get that domestic game really strong. So then the international game's really gone. And then all of a sudden you've got young girls going, I want to be Anna, I want to be Jessica. And then that whole cycle continues.
Absolutely, indeed. Good point that you made. Jessica, you studied at University of Exeter doing sports science. You led the Hong Kong under-18 team in the 15th competition to Japan. I think it's your first tour. How do you see that sports science helps today's high performance and the modern game of rugby, especially for women's rugby?
Well, I think for me, I obviously did sports science because of my interest in sport. And it's definitely helped me along the way. Like, I feel like I have a baseline knowledge of a lot of things that we're doing, whether it's S&C, whether it's from a nutrition point of view. So that's really helped me, probably more than I would have anticipated. And also, you have to remember that I was at uni, I didn't think that I was going to be a professional athlete. I didn't even realize it was an option. And I think, going on kind of on what Rachael said, it's really important that young girls can see themselves as these figures. I grew up not knowing that there was really professional sports athletes that were women. I didn't know that I would ever be able to have the opportunity, and I'm incredibly privileged to have the opportunity. But I think it's so important for young girls to see themselves in different walks of life, to see themselves as athletes, and to see that, oh, there could be a future there, that there is a possibility, which I think most young boys have. You know, they see themselves in footballers, they see themselves in professional rugby players, they see themselves on TV, on adverts. And I think it's so important that girls can see themselves in different areas.
Absolutely. Girls can see themselves in different areas. Anna, you also studied, you graduated last year in IT Communications Network. How difficult was it to play rugby and manage your education, especially in the, it's quite different when you take Asia and East Asia to South Asia and West Asia. There's so many cultural differences and financial barriers and other difficulties coming in. How do you manage both your degree program and playing rugby?
It's difficult and it's quite hard for me actually to manage my study and training. For the first time I being chosen to be in the national team, I have to postpone my study for 1 semester. yeah, I think that's because I'm new in the team, and that is my sacrifice, I think. Then the next years, I managed to juggle my time for study and for training. And when at the first year I playing rugby, is it rugby international? Is it is it hard because I'm very new in rugby. And however, when I play so many tournament, international tournament, even we lost, I learned a lot from the tournament. I learned new knowledge, new skill from the tournament, and that's make it I'm a better player today. Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful to hear that, Farhana. And now, see, you have been an inspirational figure for your entire nation, and not only that, to Asia as well as to global. You have been an absolute role model. And you mentioned at the beginning about you're not stopping it, what you want to achieve. And talking about that, if you can say a few words about the Unstoppable campaign of World Rugby.
Uh, I think the Unstoppable campaign is a really great opportunity to me, a really great chance for me to see the worldwide players, the world class players, and to know that others people also have their challenge, also have their barriers to be who they are today. So I learned from them a lot, and I'm very inspired and lucky to know them and to join the campaign.
Wonderful. Rachel, Girls Rugby Club, you're managing that with a great vision. Just talk us through that as a retired person. How useful is that, and what a wonderful service you have launched?
Yeah, so I think it just picking up on Anna's point there, you know, the game is such a great game and we want it to be for everybody, but we know that not everybody knows about it. We know that some people don't have that clear pathway to go through. So like the Unstoppable program shows, you know, all the fantastic women in across the country, what they're doing, and we're trying to showcase them. And the Girls Rugby Club is just that as well. We want to be this kind of online community where, you know, we can spread Anna's story, Jessica's story, and then we can talk about that and show that, you know, the Girls Rugby Club is a place for everybody. No matter what walk of life you come from, we can support you and help you. And you know, there's different parts to it. You know, we're going to have an online education platform to educate on all things women, for starters, because there's not enough data or research just focusing on the female athlete, but also, you know, training camps, providing more opportunities for young girls that may never get those opportunities before to come along to a camp, to join in and play rugby for the day. Maybe be their first time. It might be, you know, that they're part of a club already and they come along. But we're just really trying to grow that global community. And we really hope to get, you know, Girls Rugby Club running in multiple countries to really, really keep growing the game and showing, you know, that we're a club and you're invited. And we really want to keep supporting as many girls as we can and show that, you know, rugby is for everybody and there's a place for you, know, and that's the beauty of it, is that whatever you are welcome in rugby.
Absolutely wonderful point you mentioned, Rachel. There's a question from Kevin Hurft. How do you see the skills you learn from playing rugby help you in your personal and professional lives? If you can answer that, Rachel, I'm sure it's on your screen as well.
Yeah, I can see it. Thanks, Kevin. Well, if I take you back to when I was at school, I was not academic at all. I really struggled reading, writing, having confidence. Wouldn't read out loud. I wouldn't speak in public. But I just always played rugby, and that's where I channeled all my attention and my work rate and my focus. And slowly but surely you start to recognize that there's so many skills that you can take from rugby and put it into your personal life and then into your professional life. So just the type of, you know, the confidence, the I'm never going to let somebody tell me that I can't do something. So the encouragement to go on and be a public speaker and speak out loud now when I wouldn't do that at school. And so I think, you know, self-discipline, being able to work with multicultures and different people from different backgrounds is really important in everyday life. And the discipline that you have to get up and train or to go to work, not always you want to do those things, but the discipline to keep doing it. You know, there's so many different areas that you can pick from rugby and put it into your working life. And I certainly have benefited from, you know, being in a sport where I might not be good at everything, but there's a few things that I'm really good at and I get recognised for that. And then that gives me the confidence to believe in myself. And then that will go into off the pitch. And that's something that girls really struggle with their confidence, and so do boys as well. But, you know, young girls growing up do suffer with confidence of getting things wrong and not trying things. And that's something that I really, especially on the girls rugby club, is that we want these girls to go away feeling confident. So then when they go to school, they feel a bit more confident doing something, or, you know, when they're faced with a challenge in their life, that they've got more confidence to be able to overcome it and persevere. Because anybody who plays rugby knows it's not always great. You have tough times, you have injuries, you have selection, you have disappointment, and, you know, the way that you can turn that around into a positive, you know, is a very special thing. A lot of people will just hide and ride the negative train, but when you're a sportswoman and you get an injury or you get a knockback, you've got to find solutions to overcome that and problem solve. And, you know, we have to do that in everyday life and in whatever working career that players go into or are currently in now. We'll use those skills. So I think there's hundreds of skills. We'll probably talk for a lot longer about it, but it's definitely, I wouldn't be anywhere where I am today in terms of my work career and my ability to do all the things that I do if it wasn't for rugby.
Wow, wonderful. I hope, thank you very much first up, Kevin, for putting that question. And that's a wonderful explanation from you. I'm sure entire Asia Rugby fraternity will get this message across. And why not, like you said, Rachael, we have two inspirational women. I'm not saying you're not inspired. You are indeed, you're a superstar. Farhana and also Jessica. I mean, they can certainly learn from those stories. I mean, never give up. It's all about unstoppable. It's all about what Jessica and Anna coming through. Also, if you can put a point or two on this, Anna, how inspiration, I mean, you mentioned about how difficult you came through, and how is the situation after you appeared in the media and in the Malaysian newspapers, etc., etc. Because Malaysia as a country is a Muslim-dominated country, and your appearance, how effectful is that for the growth of Malaysian rugby?
Yeah, after there is so many appearance in media, in social media, I get a lot of support and a lot of questions that ask me, especially from young girls that ask me how to play rugby, how I want to join rugby. So I think that is a good, this is a good thing that I can show them that if I can do it, they also can do it. So I'm very impressed with the young girl that brave to join rugby after they watch my games. They watch me at the social media. For your information, when I start playing rugby, there is not so many girls that interesting, that brave enough to play rugby. But today I can say to you that half of rugby players in Malaysia national team girls that wearing hijab, and that is a very, very good progression, I think. So I see that so many girls are brave now and they want to join rugby.
And what is another brave thing you did, is, Anna, before this podcast, you were a bit nervous that you're worried about your English. I would say, no, you're perfectly fine. and this is how what you get from rugby. Even you are facing the community, you are facing the Asia with known capability. Sometimes you get shy away and get offended, and you don't want to. But this is what a leader should have, and absolutely, I appreciate for that. Thank you very much for coming in. Just from your point of view,
Thank you,
how
Sabir.
no problem, Anna. You're welcome. Talk about how aspiring women's rugby in Hong Kong through the role models like we mentioned about Natasha, we mentioned about Lindsay. How is now, since the retired players are going in, how is the new generation going to influence this?
Well, I've been incredibly lucky to play with and play against amazing players, incredible athletes, incredible women. And, you know, I watched players like you've mentioned, Lindsay, playing when I was in school, and I thought, wow, I really want to play like that one day. And I was lucky enough to play with her. And I still do. We play for the same club. So it is, like we've said this quite a few times in this talk, and it's just so important for us to be able to see ourselves. If it's about rugby, we need to be able to see ourselves in these positions to know that we can do it as well. And I think the young girls coming up, I'm inspired by these young girls, by how brave they are, how much they can do, how talented they are. And I think it's so exciting to see a new wave of players coming up. I think it's really important for the growth of the game within Hong Kong in the domestic league, but also in the bigger picture. Like Rachel's mentioned, we need more competition in grassroots level to feed into that international game. You know, for countries like us, we have a small population. And so, as an example, in November, we beat our first European team in a 15s game for the first time ever. And that was a huge milestone. And again, young girls can then look at that and think, oh, we can compete. Like that could be me one day, and that could be something that I get to do. And yeah, I think it's just incredibly important that they can see that and that we continue to inspire. And I think all of us playing now, I think our job is to leave the team in a better place than it was before. But it's also to accept that for the game to grow, that players coming up, we want them to be better than us. I want all of these players coming up who are going to put on the same shirt that I put on to be better than me, because that means that I've done something for the game and for the team to progress. And I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely wonderful word, Jessica. Thank you. Rachel, I'm not sure whether you are aware that Asia is the biggest in terms of numbers. If you see from the stats point of view, there's more than 48% women's participation in the last 3 years or so, and there's a 750 million youth lives in Asia between 18 years to 24 years old. And Japan showed the wonderful showcase with the Rugby World Cup, and they're waiting for the Tokyo Olympics. Unfortunately, it didn't happen with the current pandemic, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it will happen next year. We assume so. Where do you see this Asian population with these numbers coming in? Where do you see Asia can go into the next level?
Well, I think it's just so remarkable, the numbers that you have. And I think it's great having numbers, but it's a big thing is about retaining them. And, you know, like Jessica's been saying, having that pathway, being able to see what you want to be and how to be it will keep that participation there, will keep the numbers involved. But it's just so exciting to have that sort of numbers and that growth. And, you know, dare I say it, have we exhausted every avenue to grow the game? Probably not. So there's even more potential for those figures to go up. But yeah, I think it's all about sharing knowledge, reaching out to other unions, working together, because I think with the women's game, we really do need to get our heads together and work together so that we can really take the game to the next level across the country. I keep saying it. There is no point England keep getting better or France keep getting better. We want emerging nations coming through. We want the game to be, you know, exciting from every part of around the world. And I think Asia has one of the most exciting prospects because of the sheer numbers of participation already. Then it's like, where can it go? It will go wherever we want to take it. And I think that's the thing. It's the work that needs to be put in order to get it where we actually want it to go.
Wonderful indeed. Thank you very much for the last 40 minutes or so. Anna, thank you very much. We wish you all the best with your current setup in the camp, if I'm not mistaken, with the rugby camp, and we look forward to see you. Jessica, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And we hope Hong Kong will qualify in the 15s and for the Tokyo 2021 rugby sevens. Rachael, thank you very much. We really appreciate, and it's an absolute honor to have you and giving some inspirational thought. I'm sure we have a lot to talk, but unfortunately, we have to cut this short. Even Rachael, you want to leave in a few minutes' time. So thank you very much, ladies, on behalf of us and on behalf of Asia Rugby. And just want to mention Thanuja Weerakkody of Sri Lanka supposed to join this. Unfortunately, she have gone through a small accident, and we hope she and children are safe with that. And we look forward to get her into the one of the podcast. And she is also in the Unstoppable campaign representing Sri Lanka, one of the servant who served Sri Lanka for the last 12 years, captain 3 years from 2012 to 2015. So thank you very much once again to all our viewers, and Kevin Herb for your questions as well. Rachael, Jess, Anna, thank you very much from Asia Rugby. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.